This is Faisal Khan for Lights Out in association with Shamrock Boxing, and this is episode 3 of Boxing Talk with the Sugarman Shane Mosley Jr. and by the Sugarman Shane Mosley Jr. and of course fellow Lights Out team member Ron Muslim Gulshare. Guys, how's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah.
The idea for episode 3 just sprung into my mind because I remember when we stopped recording episode 2 and we just had a normal conversation between the four of us. Obviously Luke is not involved today, but I remember I threw a fantasy fight in there and the look on Shane's face was like, yes, that's what we're basing episode 3 on today. Yeah. S.O.G, Andre Ward versus the great Roy Jones Jr., two of the best light heavyweight fighters we've seen in the division. Two great fighters, arguably left boxing, they've left a legendary career behind them, achieved so much, not only just in the professional side of boxing, but also in the amateur side of boxing. The smile on your face when I mentioned it last week, Shane, I'm going to have to start with you.
Yeah.
Andre Ward, you worked with him for a number of weeks in season 5 of The Contender. You've seen what he was like on a day-to-day basis. As a person, what would you have to say about Andre Ward?
Stand-up guy, very poised, knows how to conduct himself as a man, also as a fighter. I think that's important. He's a man of God. Handles himself very well, and he shows that throughout everything that he does.
I just want to ask a question to Shane. Actually, did you get much opportunity to talk about boxing, and did he give you any pointers, any tips during the filming of The Contender, or things that you could be working on, or things that any strengths and weaknesses that you saw in your style?
Nothing particularly with style or anything like that. It was more so mindset, especially at that time where we are kind of in the fighting, because we were fighting every other day. There's a fight going on every other day. On TV it showed as weeks, but for us filming, it was every other day they were fighting. So you can't be like, oh hey, maybe you should do this or that. You know what I mean? It's almost too late for that. You know what I mean? But with that comes mindset, which is more important. You know what I mean? You can have all the guns that you want, but if you don't know how to use them or use them in a manner that's going to work for you, it doesn't matter. So I think that's one thing that he stressed to me, and that I kind of learned from him, was the mindset that he had. He would tell us when he was in the Olympics or going to the nationals and stuff like that, he would go and be on his own. He wouldn't go sit with anybody else, or he wouldn't talk to the guys that he was going to fight, or he would put it in his mind if this guy's doing this, I'm going to do more. You know what I mean? Things like that. And he would just almost play mental games with himself. And he used to always make fun of me because every time we had a meeting, I don't think they showed it on the show, but we would have, after every fight, we would do the bracket reading, and you would see where everybody's kind of lined up, and every single time we had it was a living room, stuff like that. They had a board, and then they had also the belt in the scene, and I would sit every single time right by the belt. And he said he was like, that's your seat now, huh? He said, you trying to go claim the belt. And absolutely. And it was that. I didn't think about it that way, but it was that I'm claiming this. This is mine. You know what I mean? So, and that's what you have to do if you want to be great. You have to already imagine it being there before it's there. So I think that that was one thing that he kind of enlightened me on, and just the mindset um, of a world class fighter, and I think he exudes that.
Yeah.
He mentioned his amateur background, of course, winning a gold medal in the 2004 Athens Olympics.
Mhm.
Retired from the amateur side of boxing with 114 wins and 5 losses. An incredible career. Where would you rank the S.O.G in terms of the best of the best in the light heavyweight division of all time?
I mean, he's definitely top five, but I mean, because that light heavyweight division is like it's stacked, man. Like, I mean, just if you think of all the guys that have light heavyweights in history, there's a lot of guys, but I think he would most definitely be um, for me uh, one or two, one or two, like
Mm.
one or two for sure. Like, there's a lot of guys in there that could be tossed around, but he's definitely one or two. Because I mean, like, I would actually like to have seen him and Joe Calzaghe. I think that would have been an interesting fight. You know what I mean? Like, just because Joe Calzaghe was most definitely like busy and he was very tricky. And SOG, obviously he has the skills, he has the ability to kind of like break people down. So I think it would have been a good fight. Um, but I mean, so there's guys like that, like he's also undefeated, had never lost and was great. So uh, but I would definitely say I'm gonna just go for it. He's number one.
Yeah.
I would say light heavyweights. He's probably number one for me.
Shane, if you don't mind, if me asking you, as a boxer yourself, what attributes, what skills do you admire of Andre Ward? What things, you put him at one or two. What skills that sets him apart from all the other great light heavyweights that we've had in the past?
Um,
Any particular skills or?
yeah, no, absolutely. I think it goes back to what we talked about before, which is the mindset and
Yeah.
the mental aspect.
Mm.
You can give the guy that's fighting Andre Ward the same skills, right? If you were playing like a controller, you give him the
Mm.
same skills, but he doesn't think like Andre Ward. You know what I mean? You can give him all Andre Ward's skills.
Jane?
With that, he knows how to break people down and
Mm.
beat them, which I think is not
Mm.
an easy task to do. I mean, especially with the array of different fighters he's been in the ring
Mm.
with, he's learned how to fight them differently and been able to break these guys down differently. He's not doing the same thing over and over, over and over. Excuse me. So
Yeah.
I think that that's one of his abilities. It's not like, oh, he has incredible hand speed or incredible strength or power or anything like that. It's just he understands the game. He knows how to break people down. He knows how to manipulate certain things or make you run into certain things. That is special.
I mean, I've recently we've been watching him as an analyst for boxing channels, and his boxing IQ is, he's a genius. He
Right.
breaks it down, and he talks about how he used to set up traps for his opposition. So he gets them to fight the way he wants them to fight, to take advantage of that situation. Like you said, he didn't have amazing power, he didn't have amazing speed, but his IQ and his mentality. I agree with you there. I think his mentality of being number one. I am going to defeat you. So I like. I agree with you there.
Absolutely.
I The reason why it's called a dream fight because you have to have two dream fighters, and of course, Andre Ward behind a huge legacy, and we could sit here all day talking about Andre Ward, but the other half of the dream fight is the great Roy Jones Jr. Some people say this is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Fantastic, fantastic fighter. I believe in 1996, high frequency boxing's John DiMaio wrote, the early evidence points towards the real possibility that Roy Jones Jr. is the greatest talent the sport has ever seen. Shane, you've grown up around your father. You told me that you were there when he fought Floyd, when he fought Canelo. What was different about Roy Jones Jr.? Why do you think he was given that title, one of the best that the sport's ever seen?
I mean, at one point in time, I mean, if you told me that Roy Jones floated when he fought, I would believe you because, like, I mean, the guy had incredible, like, he would throw like 8 left hooks or like 10 left hooks in a row. You know what I mean? And you know, just ridiculous. He has a knockout with somebody like with his hands behind his back, and then pops up and hits the guy and knocks him out. You know what I mean? Like he's incredible. I mean, I think at the time we didn't see skills displayed like that, and I think that's what kind of made him exciting, as well as he would talk mess and kind of like say I'm the greatest, I'm the best, and also prove it. So he would also say that he would play basketball like 3 games of basketball before he fought. Like it's like what do you mean that you played basketball before you came and fought? Like how? Why? And he could just do stuff like that. So I think that's kind of what made him impressive.
You have to touch on the amateur achievements as well, with an amateur record of 121 wins and 13 losses, and of course a silver medalist at the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. Now,
the controversial silver medal, by the way, can I add?
He should be a gold medalist, but yes.
Yeah, it should have been
controversial or not, he's still a silver medal winner, and we're going to talk about what he went on to achieve. And believe you me, we're going to need a hell of a lot of time to talk about what Roy Jones Jr. achieved. I just want to get a quick touch on, I've just mentioned both amateur achievements from both fighters, Shane. To really hit the heights, to get to the top of the professional side of boxing, how important would you say an amateur background is to any fighter that wants to get to the top? And I mean the very top in professional boxing.
I think it's incredibly important. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you have to have skills in boxing and the understanding in boxing and the knowledge of boxing at a very young age, and that's kind of what makes great amateurs great professionals, is because they learn these great skills at such a young age and they hone in, and then later on when they turn professional they're able to capitalize on that understanding and strength and ability. So I think it's important. I wish I had more amateur fights, to be honest, but I think one thing that kind of gives me a little bit of you know an understanding is being around it for so long, being around a lot of top fighters. But I wish I would have got into amateur boxing a lot sooner than I did. I mean, I had 50 amateur fights, but I wish I would have got into it a lot sooner. But I think it's very important. As you can see, most top amateurs are world champion.
These two fighters, they accomplished so much in their career, and hence why they probably will go down as two of the best fighters we've ever seen. I mean, Andre Ward retiring at 32-0 with 16 knockouts, and of course, being a two-weight world champion, winning that Super Sixes tournament. But when I look at Roy Jones Jr., I think one of the things that really lights my eyes up about him is the fact that how he went from middleweight to all the way to heavyweight, a four-weight world champion. Do you think, Shane, that's one of the main reasons why he has got the title as one of the greatest ever?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a very very hard feat to to handle, to win like not only one world title but four in different weight categories. So I absolutely think it's one of the reasons why we call him one of the greatest.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, if you grow up watching someone like Roy Jones Jr., he's not your textbook boxer, is he? He is the pure definition of an unorthodox fighter. I mean, I was reading up about him that he hardly used the jab to set up, an attack. That goes against every playbook in boxing. Am I correct? Or
Absolutely.
So like you said, he was very daring. Used to taunt his opponents in the ring. Head movements like you've never seen him before. he relied on his speed, his agility, his knockout power. He had it all. I mean, so he's quite contrasting to Andre Ward. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. I don't feel like Andre Ward's this by the book type of fighter, but he's if we're talking about spectrums, he's definitely on the orthodox side of boxing than a guy like Roy Jones that, like you said, he would throw left hooks instead of jabs. But I think that's one of the things that made him great because and hard to fight as well because if a guy is always expecting a jab, right? We learn, as kids, right? Jab right, left hook. You know what I mean? Those are like some of the main shots that people throw. 1, 2, 3. But if a guy is throwing hook right, hook, you know what I mean, or hook, 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 right. You know what I mean? You're like, whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen. So it's hard to deal with.
I mean, how do you? I mean, if you were to come up against an opponent like Roy Jones Jr. in your career, how do you prepare for that? I mean,
you pray to every god there is out there.
Absolutely, that'd be the first thing. But you just gotta figure out habits. You gotta figure out different things where you can capitalize. Um, obviously he's human, just like me, and he has obviously in his career he's lost, so people have figured it out. But you just gotta figure it out. When you see a guy like that, you just gotta hey, this is what he has good, this is what he has that's not so good, and this is how we're gonna take advantage of it.
In boxing, every fight you look at, they always have that one standout performance. That performance you look back to and think, "Fucking hell, man, that was something."
Right.
I start off, Roy Jones Jr. obviously started off his professional career in 1989. So I have to pick your brains there. If you was at home right now, Shane, you thought, you know what? I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch Roy Jones Jr.'s best performance of all time. Which one would you pick, and why would you pick?
Well, one that stands out because I mean I hoped that it would have been better than it actually turned out to be, and that was James Toney and Roy Jones. You know what I mean? Like because James Toney was also another great student of the game. He was quick, he's slick, he's all of these things, right? And you think, okay, this guy would be the guy I would choose to go against Roy Jones. Like absolutely, he could probably upset Roy Jones, and to have the kind of like less than performance. I mean, he did okay, but I mean, you could tell like maybe the weight got in the way or whatever the case is. So you didn't really have the fight that we were expecting to have. But it was that was kind of the fight that I feel like made Roy Jones stand out because if you go look what James Toney used to do to these guys, and he was able to beat him. You know what I mean? So I think that was one of the fights for me.
That fight was in 1994, and of course that's when Roy became a two-weight world champion by defeating James under a unanimous decision. And I've got to say, and do you know what I think I love most about that performance? I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Ron, but do you know what I think I love most about that performance? The cockiness he had in him during that fight. I mean, I remember when he had I think it was his right hand on the rope, and he was just like dancing around. Waiting for James Toney, the referee would go, "Get your hands off the rope, stop doing that." And I was just thinking to myself, I had some arrogance, but that's what I love most, mainly about.
I think for me, the performance, I think when he won the heavyweight title against John Ruiz, for a small guy that started off at middleweight, full weight, I think you've got to just stand back and just applaud that. How does a guy who starts off a middleweight end up at heavyweight and winning? I can't remember which version of the heavyweight title it was.
I think it might have been the WBA or WBA.
Yeah, I mean he won it on points, but for a small guy to hold his own against these heavyweight boxers, I just think that's incredible. That shows a different side to him. Yes, he was knocking out everyone left, right, and center, but kind of showed a different side to his game. I thought that was a good performance.
Shane, I just asked you about Roy Jones Jr. and if I now have to ask you about Andre Ward. You sat down at home tonight evening. Obviously, massive time difference between the UK and the US. What fight would you watch again of Andre Ward, and why would you pick that fight to watch?
Oh man, shoot, I've watched so many of his fights, especially lately. Um, I I like the one with Carl Froch when he won the Super Six. I mean, I think that was a great performance. I think that a lot of people were unsure that he was going to be able to beat him. You know what I mean? They were like, yeah, you want a gold medal, but I don't think you can beat this guy. You know what I mean? And he proved everybody wrong, and he did a masterful performance. He had a masterful performance.
Carl Froch was, obviously one of the UK's finest talents. One hard hitting done, and achieved so much in his career. And had a fantastic career. But obviously, that was a night for me. Andre Ward really proved. It was I believe, it was in 2011. I think that night he proved why he was probably the best fighter in the world at the time. Unified the division as well. And I just think the best thing about that was it was just such a one-sided performance. Now, if you speak to Carl Froch, he might have a lot different to say about it. But I just think that was not when everyone thought, yeah, this dude is the best out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think I've got to say the two fights with Kovalev, because that put it. If there was any question marks about who the top dog was, that was settled there. I mean, there was a lot of Andre Ward's ducking him. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to fight there. But he not only did it once. Did both fights end in what was the first one?
No, the first one was controversial.
Controversial. It could have gone either way. But then the second fight, those questions were left answered. And finished it in something of a style that we wouldn't have put Andre Ward to do. We thought he would outbox him, but he actually ended up stopping him. So,
well, he won the first fight by unanimous decision, but he was knocked down in the second round. Was Andre Ward, and then there was a lot of controversy after that first fight. And I remember Andre Ward saying, "Wait, hold on, all three judges scored the fight to me. So what? All three judges are wrong." And in the second fight, Kovalev goes. I remember after the first fight, I think he said something along the lines of, "I put him down, but I didn't finish him. In the second fight, I'm going to finish him." And then Ward knocked him out by TKO. I remember when we filmed episode one, Shane, and I asked you, I believe during episode one, Andre Ward, do you think it's the right time for him to retire? He said when he retired, the injuries were just getting the better of him. Let's take away the injuries, and let's take away the things that were slowing him down and his love for the sport going. What more do you think Andre Ward could have achieved had he not picked?
I think I would have loved to see him fight Tony Bellew or like a lighter like a cruiserweight or even a lighter heavyweight. I don't think he could have won against like any of the heavyweights like Tyson Fury or anything like that. So I would have loved to see him go against like a David Haye. I mean, I know David Haye's retired and stuff like that, but like somebody like that, David Haye or like Tony Bellew. Things like that. And I think he was actually, I think they talked about doing the Tony Bellew fight, didn't they?
They did. I remember. I think it was an AJ fight. Tony Bellew had just defeated David Haye, and Anna Woolhouse, and I believe it was Adam Smith and Carl Froch asked him what's next because we understand David Haye's injured now. You should be looking for an opponent, and he goes, "There's been talks between me and Andre Ward. We're just waiting for him to get back to us." But it did kind of happen in Creed 1. You can't say something of that magnitude. Another thing about boxing for me is a lot of pride involved in it. Do you think Roy Jones Jr. retired at the wrong time, or do you think he should have retired a lot earlier?
Yes, I wish. I think that he retired way too late. I think it's just a matter of, for him, it's in his blood. He loves doing it. He loves fighting. He's been doing it since, he's 6 years old or something like that. And maybe before that, like, just, boxing with, his, friends or whatever like that. But I do feel like he retired a little too late, or a lot too late. And I feel like he tarnished a little bit of that legacy. I mean, obviously we'll always remember his great fights and how great he was. But I think that those last couple fights, I think that he fought like a bare knuckle boxer or something like that. And it's like, come on, Roy, like you're better than that. You know, you don't need to be doing this. You know, do something else.
Did you
and
did,
go ahead.
did you ever have the privilege of meeting Roy Jones Jr.?
Absolutely, many times. Like when I was a kid to um, yeah, like I see him every now and again.
You spent a lot of time with Andre Ward, but what stood out mainly about Roy Jones Jr. when you met
Um, his knowledge, his IQ. I mean, he knows a lot about boxing. He
Mm.
can talk boxing for you, um, to you for like ever. But um, he's very knowledge. Also, one thing too, I think he's outwardly like cocky. I think one of the times I was talking to him, it was around the time of the it was before the first. I mean, the Mayweather and Pacquiao fight. It was before that, and I guess he was talking about how, um, he because I think Mayweather was talking about how he wanted Manny to do like drug tests or something like that, and Roy Jones' comment was basically, "Man, back in the day, if another dude was telling me that he was better than me, he could have a needle in his ass and we'll still fight. Like I don't care. Like bring it. Like I'm gonna beat your ass." And that was one thing that I loved about Roy Jones. He like basically like he always kept
him?
that that kind of cocky arrogance. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't always, but it was there. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't always there. It wasn't like overflowing, but it was there. Like if another guy says he's better than me, prove it. And that I love that about Roy Jones.
Just touching on that, do you think that was probably the reason why he carried on for far too long, because of that pride and that ego that he just
Absolutely.
couldn't put to the side and think, actually, my health's more important? Because he did, towards the end of his career, just did suffer some sickening kind of knockouts. I think there was the one in Russia against Macronelli,
Yeah,
which
horrible.
yeah, which was sad. When you see the box, what he's kind of, as fans, he's treated us to, and
Hmm.
for him to be kind of, you just don't want to see that. Yeah. Would you reckon that it was down to his pride and his ego, or his personality, that he just couldn't put that to the side and say, "My time's up"?
Absolutely. And it's, I mean, it's probably for him, like putting it down, like worse than a drug. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
this is something that's connected to so many memories for him and so many things that it's like, I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give away that light, that all that,
Mhm.
you know, notoriety or like that praise that, I mean, right to this day, I mean, we're talking about how great he was. You know what I mean? Like as a fighter, you're like, man, I don't want to give that up. I want that forever. You know, I want to be praised like that forever. But like, like not just like, oh, he used to be, but like, I want it now. So absolutely, I think that was one of the reasons why he maybe carried on for too long.
I mean, that's quite interesting. You say that. Now, it's both these Andre Ward. Now we've been talking about Andre Ward and Roy Jones Jr., both contrasting characters, because Andre Ward, where he realized, actually, my body's not there. I've done whatever I needed to do in the sport. I'm out. But Roy Jones Jr., on the other hand, is thinking, nope, I've got one more fight, or I'll win it. I've got something else to prove. So yeah, both great fighters in their own right, but different personalities and different mindsets, I guess.
Mm. I think it would have been a great fight.
Yeah.
Why how the current landscape of the light heavyweight division is right now. And I mentioned some of the names: Bivol, Berbiev, Gvozdik, your Kovalev that's still around, Alvarez, Jean Pascal, Badu Jack. It's still a great division, and you've got some good fighters as well coming through from the UK side of it. How do you think a prime Roy Jones Jr. and a prime Andre Ward get on in today's current light heavyweight division, Shane?
Whew. Well, oh, you said prime, right? We talking about primes.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I think that Andre, we be talking about Andre Ward and Roy Jones right now. We would be talking about them fighting. We would be talking about that they've beat all these guys, or most of them, and they should be fighting. That's what I think. Because especially like a guy like Andre Ward, um, he would have been able to break a lot of these guys down. I think, honestly, Arthur Beterbiev, he would have been, one of those guys that would have been still contending because that guy, man, he hits
Yes.
like, yeah, it's like unreal, like how that guy hits.
Can I make this a little bit more interesting? Let's
Okay.
throw in Canelo into the mix.
Ooh. Honestly, I think he's a little too light. I think, yeah, he beat a older kind of beaten down Kovalev. I mean, even with Kovalev's fight right before that with the guy from Yard, Anthony Yard. I think Anthony Yard almost knocked him out. You know what I mean? Like it was a really kind of back and forth fight. I think Anthony Yard probably just tried too hard to knock him out, got gassed out, and then got hit with that jab and put him out. But I do feel like, and they're over in Russia, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's different, time and things like that could have been throwing him off a little bit. Who knows? But I think that Canelo had just, it was like the perfect storm. I mean, he just got kind of in a hard fight with that guy, and we bring him out here, and we dust him off. So I think that's what happened. So I think he got lucky, but I think Canelo would probably be more conducive to the 168, 160 range. I think once he got deep into the 175, those guys are probably a little bit too big for him. But I do feel like he could beat some of the guys, obviously, because he's strong and fast. Obviously, he can punch like hell, so he can give some of those guys some work.
Shane, Andre Ward's natural left-handed orthodox boxing style and Roy Jones Jr.'s at his best unique and unorthodox fighting style. Which style is better suited if this fight ever happened?
I feel like I would have went with Andre Ward, just because of his ability to break guys down, pick them apart, figure out patterns, take away patterns, things like that. He was just he's very, very good at that. And I feel like he could have maybe corralled a Roy Jones, especially a young Roy Jones that was, cocky and oh man, oh, you don't think that's not hit you with 10 left hooks, you know what I mean? And maybe Andre Ward would have ran him into something. So I think that Andre Ward would have gotten the better. But skill wise and talent and ability, I feel like definitely Roy Jones had way better ability and talent. I mean, but I would have won with Andre Ward.
Ron, who would you have gone with? Who do you think style would have been better? Who do you think would have won?
Is that saying in boxing, isn't it? Styles makes fights. It's a clash of styles, isn't it? I can't say. Roy Jones Jr. Does he start quick and try to get him out early, or does it go to the 12 rounds and does Andre Ward win there? So I think it's either one or two ways. This fight's gonna. It's either Ward wins by points or Roy Jones wins by early knockdown. That's my prediction. I'm sitting I know I'm being a bit of a wuss here, but sitting on the fence. That's my prediction.
I personally think, looking at the fight, because of how good they were, and because they both, not as much with Ward, but because Roy Jones Jr. had that cockiness, I think that cockiness would have brought the best out of Andre Ward. Because I believe every time Andre Ward had to step up to fight an elite fighter, you've seen the best of him, i.e. the first fight with Carl Froch, the fight with Michael Kessler, and I believe his performance in the second fight with Kovalev was way better than the first fight. I do believe that Andre Ward would have stepped up to the plate, and I believe Andre Ward would have beaten him by points. But I reckon what you would have got is you would have got like a chess match. I don't think it would have been a classic brutal brawl for 12 rounds. I think it would have been a tactical boxing fight, a classical chess match, where Andre Ward's skills might have got the better of him. And you know what? Like they say about Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, it's a shame that we'll never get to see this fight because we are talking about two of the best light heavyweight there has been, and just achieved so much. You know, two-weight world champion Andre Ward, Roy Jones Jr., a four-weight world champion, and an undisputed light heavyweight champion. I mean, in terms of the top 10, Shane, if you had to give us a list right now of the top 10 of all time, would you put Ward and Roy Jones in there?
I think that they would have a place. I think they would have a place. Not sure where they would rank. I mean, I'm just kind of going off the hip right now, but yeah, I think they would rank. I don't know where I would put them in mine, but I think that they would be there for sure.
Ron?
I'd say Roy Jones has more of a case, and just based on he's a full-weight division champion. From middleweight to heavyweight, that's unheard of. I can't think of anyone else who's ever done that before. So taking nothing away from Andre Ward, skills, his IQ, his everything that Shane's talked about. So he's definitely got worth a mention. I mean, he's probably in the top American top 10 for sure, but top world, pound for pound.
And just one last question, obviously, because we're talking about two iconic figures. Did your father? I know you didn't spar with Andre Ward, but did your father ever have any sparring sessions with Roy Jones or Andre Ward?
He might have had some sparring sessions with Roy. I'm not sure. But because they used to always fight on the same cards together,
yeah,
and things like that, and that they were obviously close. So, but I'm not sure. They might have.
Well, if you've got any tapes, feel free to send them to us over Instagram. Obviously, that's all we've got time for on episode 3 of Boxing Talk with the Sugar Man Shane Mosley Jr. Before we go, just want to remind the viewers out there, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like, make sure you comment on the social media platforms. Shane, thank you very much for your time. A pleasure as always. We look forward to episode 4. And Ron, thank you very much for your time as well. And thank you to the guys that listened
to fellas.
Episode 3 of Boxing Talk with the Sugar Man Shane Mosley Jr.
Yep.